Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Farij Putra from Group 1. Today, me and my friend will present about naturalism. By definition in philosophy, naturalism is a theory that relates scientific method to affirming that all beings and events in the universe are natural. Naturalism denies the existence of truly supernatural realities, like a natural object be influenced by the so-called supernatural entities in a detectable way. Naturalism is the belief that nothing exists beyond the natural world. Instead of using supernatural or spiritual explanation, naturalism focuses on explanation that come from the laws of nature. As an example, naturalism refers to a realistic approach to art that rejects idealized experiences. So, when you look at a painting that embodies the spirit of naturalism, you will notice it capturing the real world rather than trying to make things look better than they are. With naturalism, what you see is what you get.
I know it's tricky, but what is what is naturalism?
Yeah, that is tricky, so I'm not going to do it. Naturalism basically is just the idea that nature is all that exists. But then you say, how do you define nature? Originally, you had materialism, that everything is matter, and then you started saying, well, there's other things that function besides matter. There seems to be forces, like gravity. So they just said physical. Physicalism is a very popular term in philosophy, and naturalism just says whatever science defines as nature. That's naturalism. But then the thing is that there's no set definition because all those different ideas have different. I mean, you refute one form of naturalism, you're not going to refute another. I just follow planning and saying instead of defining it, he's just going to give some of the entailments of naturalism.
Yeah.
And how it addresses that. So he's just saying it entails that there's no non-physical element to the human being. There's no soul. There's no mind. There's no supernatural agents like God. There's nothing like that.
The founder of naturalism belief is Charles Darwin. He born in 12 February 1909 and died on 19 April 1882. After his graduation from University of Edinburgh, he fulfilled his life by being a naturalist, as he strongly believed, and a great geologist, also as an expert biologist. Along his journey as a strong naturalism believer, his belief was supported by great anthropologist Alfred Wallace. At the age of 50 years old, he published a book on the origin of species. So next, the chronology and history of naturalism was started by the prominent science figure, as I introduced you just now, Charles Darwin, who born in Shrewsbury, England. And then, in 1880, the experimental novel by Émile Zola became the seminal manifesto of naturalism. Émile Zola was born at Paris in 1840. Zola's objective was to present life with a crucial extent of consolidated with the sordidness of nature and life. He was well known for his 20-volume series of Le Rogue Macquart, which story about two French families in a way of naturalism literature. After a long course of naturalist movement, Daniel C. Dennett appeared as a philosophy scientist from Boston, US. He was an American naturalist philosopher specializing in the philosophy of the mind. He became a prominent figure in the 80s movement at the beginning of 21st century. So now I pass the presentation to my friend Aiman.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Aiman Fathi bin Muhammad Fairuz, metric number 2121549. So I'm going to share about the characteristic of naturalism and its principle. The first characteristic of naturalism is determinism. Because they don't believe in free will, they hold that people lack the ability to choose and make decisions. According to the determinism theory, every occurrence is determined by a cause and effect chain, meaning that the present condition determines the future. Then comes the Darwinism. Charles Darwin made a significant contribution to it in 1859. According to the theory of Darwinism, population has evolved over many generations as a result of natural selection. The battle for existence serves as the foundation for all species evolution. The third one is pessimism. Pessimism is said to believe that if a person's environment is poverty, then he will most likely die in poverty. The next following characteristic is the rejection of romanticism. The end of 18th century saw the cultural movement known as Romanticism, which emphasizes the value of emotions and the pursuit of freedom. Unfortunately, naturalists rejected this movement and opted to describe events as they occurred rather than as what they may have been. The last one is using science to portray reality. As is well known, naturalism places a strong emphasis on the use of observation and the scientific method. Naturalists utilize scientific procedures such as systematic observation, experimentation, measurement, formulation, and analysis to develop the traits of their characters and narratives. Then we go to the principle of naturalism. The first one is that the world is a natural creation. Naturalists believe that the cause and the happening of the universe is by nature itself. For example, the formation of ice from water and vice versa is caused by natural change. The second principle is that they believe the physical world and what we are seeing with our senses is the only truth. This is because they cannot see the spiritual world, so they denied it. The third principle is that humans are the best creation of the world. Scientific naturalists believe that humans have special power compared to animals. Humans are intelligent due to the brain because it is a highly developed nerve system than animal. The final one is naturalists said that the purpose of human life is to live happily. They believe that living a natural life is the only way to live life happily. They totally rejected artificial life.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Afiq Mukrin bin Ahmad Fauzi, metric number 2123507. And I'm gonna be explaining about the strength and shortcoming of naturalism and the shortcoming of naturalism. Naturalism encourages people to believe that the universe is naturally there, which means that the naturalism didn't believe that the universe is created by the gods. Naturalism also rejects everything that is supernatural, things that can't be explained by science, such as angels and devil. For the strength of naturalism, naturalism encourages people to study about the universe to understand how the universe works. By understanding how the universe works, it lets people to discover that everything in this universe have their purpose and role, which is proof that the universe is created by the God. A bit info about Islamic worldview. From the Islamic worldview, people believe that everything comes from Allah. From something that is as small as a rock to something that is as big as the sun and other stars. The Islamic worldviews also believe that not all things can be explained through science. For example, things like Judgment Day, Heaven and Hell, and many other things.
So I'm going to present about the example. The founder of this ideology, who is Charles Darwin, is the best examples that we can take, as his theory claims that nature chose human to make an evolution. He claims that humans share a common ancestor with apes. This was controversial because it was against the religious belief of many people. In Islam, as we believe that everything happened in the world is allowed by God, but for naturalism, they believe that it is a natural law. He said that diversity of life came because of modification in populations that were driven by natural selection. Natural selection provides an explanation for how a species' genetic features might evolve through time. This could result in species or the creation of new species. So the impact of this ideology opened the way for more scientific breakthrough and new understanding of the natural world. Besides, scientists are more understand about DNA. Other than that, he discovered that mutation can prove as beneficial to a society by allowing a species to adapt to environmental changes. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We move on to the summary of what we have been presented by my good mates. First of all, the definition of naturalism. Naturalism defined as affirming that all being and event in the universe are natural. However, bear in mind that this definition is not the only definition of naturalism. There are many naturalists try to create their own philosophical view on the definition of naturalism. We move on to the concept. Nothing exists beyond the natural world, and naturalism focuses on explanation that come from the laws of nature. It means that something that are not physical is considered non-exist. Next is the history. It started in the 19th century by the founder of theory of evolution, and then be prolonged by the next great philosophers. Then we move on to the characteristic which involve the concept of determinism, pessimism, Darwinism, as what I've been mentioned just now, rejection of romanticism and scientific method. It's to portray reality which one of the features in methodological aspect of naturalism. Next is about the principles. I want to highlight the point of no God. Naturalists do not believe something that cannot be felt with our senses, and that make them believe in the non-existence of God. After that, the strength and shortcoming. Next is the Islamic perspective. We as a Muslim aware that Allah SWT is the sole creator of the universe by understanding Tawheed. Naturalists does not believe in something that is beyond their sight, so they make the decision to not believe in God. This is surely unlawful in Islam because you forbid the presence of God and which surely makes you become kufur. Last but not least, is example and the impact of naturalism. That's what I mentioned earlier about Charles Darwin evolution theory. Thus, by this theory, it helped to gain more scientific breakthrough. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to our talk show entitled Naturalism, Ontological and Methodological. Ontological and methodological naturalism are two separate beliefs but fall under the same ideology, which is naturalism. Our show today purposely wanted to talk about the meaning of those two characterizations and what are the counter-arguments. Without further ado, I would like to invite the first speaker to talk about the definition of ontological naturalism. Please welcome Mr. Farish Putra.
In order to understand the definition of ontological naturalism, let me help you by giving a simple concept that will help you to understand better. So, ontological naturalism only deals with the word existence, meaning that a matter or a state that is not in the physical presence cannot be considered to exist. What do I mean by that? Let me explain. Every entity in this world that does not have a physical presence is considered non-exist. For example, we cannot see with our bare eyes the physical presence of the mind, but we know that the mind comes from the generation of neurons from our brain. But the state of mind itself cannot be captured as a physical entity, right? Because we never get to see it. So the projection goes the same with the concept of soul. We cannot feel the presence of the soul using our senses, right? As it does not come in any physical form. So naturalists believe that the soul and mind cannot have an influence on the entities of the world, which based on the fact that there are no entities that can have an influence on the physical world, which are not themselves physical.
Thank you to Brother Putra for the insights. Now, I would like to ask the second speaker, Brother Afiq. What is the argument that you can come up with pertaining to this idealism, which is ontological naturalism? Please welcome.
I have to argue in regards to the concept of ontological naturalism presented by the first speaker just now. I will first come up with a simple analogy that is relatable in our daily basis of life. Let's say that I want to hail a cab. I'm on the roadside of a big city observing the road and searching for a cab. I saw a cab and waved my hand towards the driver and the cab stopped to pick me up. This shows that my mind, which you say that there can be no effects to the entity of the world because it is not in a physical form, can simply conduct my hand to wave to the cab to stop the driver. It shows that the mind does affect my behavior as it sends message to my intuitions to stop the cab before it passes through my roadside. It shows that the concept of ontological naturalism can be argued. If it's not because of my state of mind that connects with my intuition and desire to call for the cab by waving my hand, then the cab driver surely would not notice me.
Thank you, Brother Afiq, for the insight. Now I would like to invite the third speaker, Brother Fatih, to explain more about methodological naturalism.
Thank you, Brother Akmal. Methodological naturalism actually deals with science and philosophical method in order to seek for synthetic truth. Synthetic truth defined as a truth that is true because of its meaning and because of the way the world is. Methodological naturalism believes that both fields can work hand to hand in searching for undefined synthetic truth using the method of experience. However, we know that these two fields of study are very distinct from each other. Philosophers will always ask big questions such as what is the purpose of life, what is the meaning of desire and such. Scientists, on the other hand, will ask more specific questions like what are the components of human anatomy, what is the chemical reaction of peroxides, for example. The usage of experience method in order to finalize a hypothesis is the main concept of scientific methodology. The methodological naturalists insist that these two fields are the pioneers in investigating the way the world works.
Thank you, Brother Fatih, for the sharing about methodological naturalism. So we'd like to invite the last but not least, the fourth speaker, who is Amir Hazin, to give argument in regards to the concept of methodological naturalism. Please welcome.
So I would argue that philosophers do not use experience to generate a philosophy. This means that philosophy uses a method that is independent from experience in its investigation. Thus, based on the definition of methodological naturalism, I would say that it is false because of the contradict aspect, especially on the usage of the principle using experience to seek a synthetic truth in the definition. Secondly, based on the same principle that I have mentioned just now, philosophers usually investigate and generate a philosophy in order to obtain analytic truth. Analytic truth is the opposite element of synthetic truth. Analytic truth using the virtue of logic, while synthetic truth using the virtue of meaning. For example, the statement all bachelors are alone is a synthetic truth, but the analytic truth will come up with a statement all bachelors are unmarried. This example is taken from a book written by Immanuel Kant, who is a German philosopher, entitled Critique of Pure Reason. This example shows us that philosophers have always been linked with the purpose of finding analytic truth rather than synthetic truth, thus making the definition a false principle. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you to all the speakers. I hope that the audiences can gain much information pertaining to this philosophical ideology. Hope to see you guys again in the next episode. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.